Ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to today's webinar, where we're looking at a fascinating story from a leading retailer. You'll be very familiar with the company that's presenting today. We've got the Delhaize story, specifically looking at how to successfully kill the spreadsheet and master general ledger reconciliations. And I'm delighted to present today Trintech as our sponsor. So, I extend to you a very warm welcome indeed. My name is Susie West, and I set up sharedserviceslink.com in 2007, specifically to help people like you improve performance within their finance and accounting shared services organisation. And we do that through extending best practice information, like what we'll be doing over the next 60 minutes, through our webinars, our conferences, and through our masterclasses and website. Do become a member of sharedserviceslink.com. It is free. There is absolutely no financial investment whatsoever. But as a member, you get to benefit from the fantastic information and top tips and guidance that we've got on our website, and all very much sourced to help you improve your performance. So please do make sure that you become a member directly after this. We have a lot of presenters here today. We've got a great team from Delhaize who will be introducing themselves separately throughout the course of the hour. And we've also got Dave from Trintech, who is our expert from Trintech. He's going to be talking to us about the exciting things that they're doing with all of their customers. So a very exciting hour coming up. The agenda for the next 60 minutes, I'm going to be touching on how this session works, and then really talking about the intention of this session, and then I'll be passing over to our presenters and taking your questions and putting them to the presenters at the end of the hour. So it's a very straightforward platform, GoToWebinar. Many of you have joined us before, and I'm sure many of you have used GoToWebinar before. If you do have any technical questions, we do have technical support on the line to help you. So please do feel free to tap into that should you need it. Really importantly, this is a very key area for a lot of you right now, and it's costing a lot of companies an unnecessary amount of money to manage general ledger reconciliations right now. So please do submit your questions to me throughout the course of the webinar, and then I'll be taking the questions and asking them on your behalf to the presenters in the last 10 minutes of the webinar. So what's the intention of this session? What's really the context? Well, it's really very straightforward. Many of you will be representing shared services organisations, and shared services organisations are really built up to make sure that their processes, their financial processes, are much more robust, much more automated, much more controlled, and much more efficiently run. So shared services organisations are always daily, on a daily basis, focused on getting rid of waste, identifying wastage and then getting rid of it. So this really is a key aspect of this presentation today. We all know that significant wastage exists within financial reconciliations. I hear horror stories where organisations have hundreds, sometimes thousands of people just focusing on financial reconciliations, and it's just not required when there are technologies like the one that we will be looking at today which can automate a significant proportion of this reconciliation work. There's also huge pressure on the finance shared services leadership team to move away from spreadsheet management, to move away from multiple versions and having to control, get involved in version control, and to move away from that very broken way of handling reconciliations and moving to a much more dynamic, controlled, automated solution. So there's huge pressure on organisations to move away from that. And just finally as well, with everyone is talking about touchless processing, it's front of mind for shared services organisation leaders. And if we're going to be talking about touchless processing for example, record to report, or from order to cash or purchase to pay, it must include the reconciliation piece, absolutely. key to all of those processes. So, with that in mind, I would like to introduce our first presenter for today. I'm going to allow him to introduce himself fully, but over to Dave from Trintech. Over to you, Dave.
Thank you, Susie, and thank you very much for hosting this seminar. My name is Dave Kaiser. I am the sales director for Trintech in continental Europe. I also would like to thank Delhaize for sharing with us their journey with Trintech to automate their GL account reconciliation process. And obviously, I would like to welcome to the audience and thank them for giving us their time today, and hope this session is going to be beneficial to all of you. Let me start with a short introduction of Trintech. Our corporate headquarters is in Ireland. However, our operations are run from the US, the UK, and in the Netherlands, where I'm based. We are leading the way in helping finance deliver the last mile of finance. This is an area of finance that is widely covered by the analyst community, who stipulate their integrated all financial processes that are relevant to delivering the last mile of finance. It's the way forward to gain efficiency and deliver a cost efficiency service back to your business. The most prolific writer of last mile of information is John van Dekker from the Delhaize Group. Our experience is gained from having more than 600 clients and over 100,000 users worldwide across a large variety of industry sectors. Trintech has an enormous amount of financial expertise, and most of our 170 employees have been former CFOs, CPAs or controllers, auditors, or financial consultants. We focus on helping clients deliver the last mile of finance, and our clients range from Fortune 500 FTE listed down to as small businesses. Many clients see ROI from investments in financial processes, improvements within 6 to 9 months. We operate a partner program with different BPO providers, like for example Accenture, HP, Logica, WNS, and Steria, and we are also partnering with companies like R.R. Donnelley to deliver a filling services that will allow companies to file statutory reports into XBRL or iXBRL, depending on to whom you report. Trintech is unique with our own methodology for implementing projects called ADIT. This enables us to work on a fixed price basis for all our projects and to deliver on time within budget. Now I'd like to pass back to Susie for a poll question. Over to you, Susie.
Okay, if everybody can now hear me. I'm so sorry about that, everybody, but you've all participated in our results, so I'm just going to share those with you now. We've just got some very interesting results for you here, as you can see. So just to repeat, if your organisation is still reliant on manual spreadsheets reconciliation, how much time is spent collating this information? So you can see that a huge proportion of you, 35 and 70% of you, spend between 30% and 75% of your time involved in manual reconciliation. So very interesting indeed. With 70% of you, between 30 and 75% of your time spent in manual reconciliation. And so hopefully you're going to take an awful lot from this session. I'm sure the Delhaize story will help you a lot. So back to you, Dave. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Susie. I'm looking to the result of the poll, and actually this is what we expected as well. We see this result between around 50% to higher, with all our prospects and customers collecting all the information prior to when they used our solution, the Unity AssureNet solution. Let's move on with a short description in what's in for me. That's the big question. The majority of our people ask when they are looking at the financial solutions, Twintech takes into account the needs of a large variety of stakeholders who benefit differently as per the role they have in the organization. So, for example, the CFO, who is able to have online visibility on all the financial processes and to access critical information directly, helping him or her to measure the compliance regulations and potential financial risks. Their goal is to make the right decisions according to the regulations and to minimize the risks. The controllers, however, will be helped with automation and by having online visibility on different processes such as, for example, data collection or reconciliations, the financial close, or the reports into XBRL. They are looking for productivity gains within their daily tasks. At the same time, they want to be assured that these processes are completed according to the regulations and the policies used within their company. The reporting manager is helped in his coordination of the reports he or she needs to generate in time without errors. The automated workflow, the scheduling and the collaboration and review streamlines the financial reporting process. The IT manager is confident that a proven technology, agnostic to any ERP or CPM system, can help the finance team and remove the onus from IT as the solution is managed by finance with little intervention by IT. Again, I would like to pass on to Susie for another poll. Over to you, Susie, please.
Thank you very much indeed, Dave. So let's have a look at the second poll question of the day. Which of the following statements, in your opinion, is the most important driver for automating the general ledger reconciliation process? So you've only got a choice of one, ladies and gentlemen, not a multiple choice here. Clear visibility of the entire close process for stakeholders, complete documentation of reported exceptions, fast reporting to financial management and internal audit, standardization and process control, reduction in time spent on manual activities. So only 30% of you have responded. Waiting for the remainder of you to respond, please. We always like to get up to about 70% on these polls, so 60%, just waiting for another 10% of you to respond, please. And I will be closing the poll shortly. So if you haven't casted your vote, please do so. We'll be closing the poll in 3, 2, 1. Okay, let's have a look. You're all pretty much in agreement, actually, which is always an encouraging sign. You'll see on your screen shortly, 50% of you are in agreement that the main driver for automating the GL reconciliation process is reduction in time spent on manual activities. Coming in at not a close second, we've got standardization and process control, and then the top three, as you can see there, were in the low single digits as far as the key drivers were concerned. Very interesting, and back to you, Dave.
Thank you, Susie. Actually, this is indeed a very interesting result. As with our solutions, we are indeed reducing the time spent, and we do have examples of our customers that reduce their time in their process with 20% or higher. And obviously, the goal of the solution, as Delhaize will explain later on, is about the standardization of the processes where you have a consistent way of going through the GL account reconciliation process. Well, today we are focusing on the AssureNet GL, which is one part of our platform suite, which consists of 5 major modules, visible via a single dashboard. If you read from the left, we have operational reconciliations, helping with the finance department matching the high volumes transactions to quickly manage the expectations through a sophisticated workflow. Okay. In the middle, you'll find the automation of the financial close, divided into a GL account reconciliation process and managing the closing activities. This is what Delhaize will share with us in a moment. At the right-hand side, you see the financial reporting module that assists with the statutory reporting. Along the bottom, covering all aspects of finance, the ARM and the compliance modules. Now for a last poll, I pass on to Susie again, and looking forward to the results of the next poll. Susie, please.
Thank you very much indeed, Dave. We're actually going to do 2 back-to-back polls. So I will be passing back at the end for Dave to give feedback on both polls. So the first poll that I'd like you to participate in, please, it will be coming up on your screen very shortly. If you're able to implement and deliver greater visibility across balance sheet reconciliations, what would be the valued impact? Okay, so if you were able to implement and deliver greater visibility across balance sheet reconciliations, what would be the valued impact? Improving audit and compliance, identifying and managing risk, quantifying the potential financial exposure, automating balancing and balance and reconciliation controls, automated balancing and reconciliation controls, or accuracy in management reporting. So which one of those reaches out to you the most, and which, if you were able to implement and deliver greater visibility, what would be the most valued impact? So it's really just, again, one response that we're looking for from you, please, not multiple, but just one. Still waiting for a number of you to come back. So if you haven't cast a vote, please do so. I'll be closing the poll in 3, 2, 1. Got about 73% of you responding there, so let's have a look before we move on to the final poll of the day. And you can see that a bit more evenly spread in this particular poll, but the winning options were the last 2. So we've got accuracy in management reporting, and we've got automated balancing and reconciliation controls. So very interesting indeed. And let's move on to the second poll. That will be coming up very shortly. It's, as I say, it's our final poll for this particular webinar. So coming up shortly, which of the following, in your opinion, is the biggest obstacle to general ledger reconciliation improvements within your organization? Resistance to change, boundaries between business units, involving IT consultants to administer and change the processes for you. So which one of those 3 really, in your opinion, is the biggest obstacle to process improvement in your organization? 60% of you have responded. Still waiting for a number of you to come back. So as I say, I'd like to get that number around 70 or just a little higher. So if you haven't cast your vote, please do so. Closing the poll in 3, 2, 1. Let's have a look at what those results suggest. Okay. So resistance to change is a big one for a lot of you, just shy of 50%, and I'm sure Dave will have some comments to draw on for that. And also, boundaries between business units, also a big obstacle for change. Thank you very much, and back to you, Dave.
Great, thank you, Susie. Yes. Before I move on to my last slide, let me indeed come back to the 2 poll questions. I saw that the accuracy in management reporting is number 1, and better control and visibility over disparate processes. Actually, that question was equally answered almost to all of the results or answers that we gave. And actually, what you will see and hopefully hear today from Delhaize, as well as a confirmation, is that you will have, by implementing an automated solution, have more control and visibility over your processes, especially in this case the GL account reconciliation processes. If we look at the other question, we saw that the resistance to change was by far the number 1. Actually, with this too, we are not changing anything within your process, and hopefully Delhaize, with their presentation, will be able to express it to you as well. Now, if we go on and look at my last slide of today, this slide shows you a snapshot of all our clients, not all our clients, I should say, a number of our clients, with many familiar names, as you can see. We are happy to introduce you to them, as we know they are happy to share their experience with you. And among these customers, you will have all kinds of different flavors of ERP, looking from SAP, Oracle, GD Edwards, whatever. So please ask us if you are having a specific customer you would like to speak to with a specific ERP system. Enough about Trintech. I think it's time to share with you a customer experience. I would like to introduce to you Laurent Collier of Delhaize. He's responsible for the finance and accounting team, and he will share together with Ellen and with Janine their experience with Unity AssureNet. Over to you, Laurent.
Thank you, Dave. And hello, everybody, and welcome to this webinar. Let's start maybe with a quick overview of Delhaize. Delhaize Group is an international food retailer active on 3 continents and in several countries. We are active in the United States, which is our leading market in terms of revenues. We are, of course, active also in Belgium. This is our historical market where we started in 1867. We are also active in Greece and Romania, in Indonesia, and more recently we acquired Delhaize Group, which is a retailer active in several countries of Eastern Europe. Some key figures about the Delhaize Group. Our group is managing a portfolio of 2,800 stores and works with almost 138,000 associates. In 2010, Delhaize Group posted 20.8 billion revenues. Also, maybe let's move on Delhaize Belgium, because the project we are talking about today is the Delhaize Belgium project. So Delhaize Belgium and Luxembourg is the second largest market of Delhaize Group. It consists in a store portfolio of 805 stores. We are working with 17,000 associates in Belgium and Luxembourg. In 2010, Delhaize Belgium and Luxembourg posted 4.8 billion in revenues. Delhaize Belgium reports today almost 2 million customer visits a week. Maybe a last point to tell you about is the fact that Delhaize Belgium operates both company-operated stores, but also is working via a large number of affiliated convenience stores, which are operated by independent owners. Now, about the finance department of Delhaize Belgium, because our project is managed by finance, it's a finance accounting project. Delhaize Finance and Business Planning covers all aspects of finance as reported on the chart to follow, and includes a team of around 239 members. The accounting department structure is divided in 2, divided between financial accounting and transactional accounting, which is probably a point of differentiation compared to a classical accounting department. Our objective when we began the process by the end of 2009 was to enhance control at 2 different levels. At level of business cycle, which is an horizontal approach, and also at level of company, which is a more vertical approach. What are we doing more precisely? Transactional accounting is divided in 7 cycles, responsible for daily operations accounting, through all these 7 cycles for each of the companies in the scope. This department ensures the daily quality accounting of all Delhaize business transactions. So transactional accounting is translating business transactions into accounting figures. On the other side, financial accounting and control, which is my department, and also the department that is leading the project today. Financial accounting is maintaining control on company accounts at P&L, balance sheet, and cash flow statement level. We are also establishing and trying to understand and explain as good as possible all our financial statements. The Financial Accounting Act, you can see financial accounting as an internal chartered accountant, and he is responsible for the entire financial statement of the company in local GAAP, but also in IFRS, as we report for group purpose under IFRS. Therefore, the AssureNet solution we will present you today to allow us to establish controls at account level and organize these controls by cycles to reflect also our internal organization. I will not go too much into details in the org chart that you can probably see. Just to mention that we have several sub-departments within finance. Our department is financial accounting and control, when we are leading the project together with transactional accounting. I now give the word to Janine, who is going to tell you more about our project.
Thank you, Laurent, and hello, everybody. So we had, before we started to work with AssureNet, two challenges to deal with. First, the reconciliation of our GL accounts, and secondly, the validation of tasks for all our closing activities. We did initially the reconciliation of only our balance sheet accounts and only for the biggest company of the group. This was mainly for more than 300 accounts, and it was very time-consuming and very daunting, especially since we did these reconciliations each month for each account in a separate Excel file, and every employee worked independently and had also his own way of doing it. Sometimes it was just a copy of the postings done in our accounting system, SAP. We had no standard procedure who described what the content of an account must be, how to control the account, or which documentation is needed to validate the content of the account. Even the archiving of the documentation was different. One did it per month, someone else per account, stored in files, in binders, and so on. So it was very difficult, almost a nightmare for us to have a view of the execution of the reconciliations. Who was reconciling which account? We didn't know if the accounts were reconciled correctly, if the reconciled was done on time, or whether they were reconciled at all. We had no visibility on how many months delay we had. But the most important of all was that we had no view on the fact if there were issues in the account that we had to resolve. We had no idea of the number of the issues and certainly not of the valuation of it. We could not assure that the financial results reflect the reality. In addition to the reconciliation of our accounts, we had also no view over the different tasks we had to do during our closing period. Because here again, every department of accounting, or even every employee of accounting, held his own list of tasks in separate Excel files or on a written piece of paper, or worse, appeared on his memory. There was no interaction between the different departments of accounting. We had also no real-time visibility on the course of the monthly closing activities. On the completeness of it, if all entries were correctly, if they were done on time, or if they were recorded in the proper period. On top of that, there was no backup foreseen for some of the tasks in case of absence of employees. So we decided to start a project to improve our way of working. After some research on the market, by surfing on the web and by questioning some peers, we invited Trintech to give us a demo of their software AssureNet. The demo showed us that the application was very easy to use. At a glance, you have a clear overview of the status of your activities, and there are a lot of predefined and interesting reports available. It seems also an application that was simply to implement. You need only a basic training and not so much IT support. So soon after that, we started to define our main objectives of the project, as there are: automate our process for all our active Belgian companies of the group, replace the manual paper-based reconciliations, set up the storing of electronic supporting documents for the reconciled account, and the review of the content of all RGL accounts. Secondly, centralize in one online tool the closing and reconciling instructions and accounting policies, and of course the list of all our tasks to do during the monthly closing activities. Define ownership and identify responsibilities at account level, including linking balance sheets account with P&L accounts. We wanted to have a single, complete and daily view on the status of the monthly closing activities and on the status of the reconciliations of our accounts. Detect and flag automatically major errors and issues, so we can have a follow-up if the reconciliation of these errors or issues are done and if they are done on time. Set up reminders to send by mail for late reconciliations and for late tasks. And finally, allow internal and external auditors to have access to the system to avoid additional questions and to assure the quality of the reconciliations and the tasks. So a lot of objectives to take in account during the implementation, where Ellen now will tell you more about.
Thank you, Janine. Hello, everyone. So I will tell you more how we started with our initiated project and the current status of it. First of all, we had several discussions with Trintic about our requirements, and they have illustrated us what options Ashronet has. In order to realize this project, we decided to allocate all accounts to each cycle. Then we have defined also our reconciliation template, which will be the standardized template for each account. In our first phase, we decided to start with the treasury cycle, specifically the bank accounts. Herein we defined the reconciliation template per bank account, as each account has another activity. Then we also allocated each bank account to one reconciler and one reviewer. The reconciliation schedule that is used by the reconciler and reviewer is very friendly to use, and therefore we didn't need to give any intensive training to our colleagues. Of course, we had some problems, but Trintech has assisted us and tackled our issues. Up until today, we are further analyzing accounts of the treasury cycle. But the senior management has now already visibility on the performed reconciliation for the bank accounts. Of course, due to the fact that more accounts are implemented in Delhaize, there are more users. So we had to integrate more users in Delhaize, which is also quite easy. The current benefits that we have for the reconciliation of accounts, and which will be have more in the near future, is the fact that each account has now one reconciler and one reviewer, so there's more ownership of the accounts. Furthermore, the controls are also improved on the financial statements due to the fact that for each account one control has been defined. In addition, each reconciler and reviewer has to add all his documentation in the SureNet. As you can see, we have two print screens. The first one is the account maintenance. Here you can see that we have mentioned some links to our reconciliation template. That's the print screen next to it. The reconciliation template contains namely the description of the account, the controls that is defined per account, the document types that are used to do the entries on that account, and also the data sources. Another advantage that we have in the reconciliation of accounts is the fact that there is more visibility on the performed and outstanding reconciliations. It's also quite easy for the reviewer to perform his follow-up, and also he guarantees more quality on the performed reconciliations, and at least it's more efficient to use this tool, ShareNet. Then the benefits, advantages that we have for the tasks is the fact that we have also more centralization of all closing tasks. There is also more visibility for the outstanding tasks for the reconciler and approvers, and improves also the follow-up for the managers and controllers. I will pass back the word to Laurent.
Thank you, Ellen. So just to quickly summarize our project, for us the keywords to remember are ownership, structure, and visibility. Unity as ShareNet is used at Delhaize Belgium to manage both the monthly closing task and the account reconciliation tool. The main business driver for Delhaize implementation was to improve our controls over our financial statements through an in-depth reconciliation work program by account. Unity as ShareNet helped us with structuring the approach, organizing, storing the documentation, the supporting documentation around each GL account. So the very important point was to reconcile every single GL account of every single company we have in our scope. Thanks to Unity as ShareNet, we have enforced ownership within the accounting department, as every single GL account will be linked to a particular person who has the sole responsibility for the accuracy, quality, and reconciliation of the account. This avoids discussion when we are looking for the right person to answer the question. Now also management will have the visibility into the account status, being able to action to resolve exceptions earlier in the closing process. And last but not least, which is very important, is that we can bring to light potential risks in the financial statements, and to discover these risks before and not too late. So that's it for our presentation of today, and I'm looking forward for any questions.
Many thanks, Laurent. I think this was a very great presentation, and I'm happy that you shared your results and your journey with ShareNet, DigiClose, as it has been mentioned earlier, with us. As a summary, I would to ask you some simple questions to the audience. Do you have a disproportional amount of GL accounts? Do you have issues with subledger entries, too little or maybe too much information? Are journal entries a bottleneck? If yes to any of the above, then please contact us to discuss with you how we can help you, providing you with visibility at your financial transactions, making sure all numbers are correctly reconciled at month end, help with the preparations, the review and the controls of your month end process, or eliminate the spreadsheets, which is obviously a goal as well. Again, thank you very much for your time, and hope to hear from you very soon. Susie, thank you very much, and back to you.
Thank you, Dave, and thank you very much, Laurent and Ellen and Janine from Delhaize. Very interesting indeed. So many questions have come through. If you haven't had a chance to submit a question, please do so. We've got about 10 minutes for questions. The first question I've got, and I think I'll put this directly to you, Dave, if I may. As far as intercompany reconciliations are concerned, could you just say a few words, please, regarding intercompany reconciliations and how you support that?
I rather prefer to pass this question on to my colleague. Patrick. So if you could unmute him so he could answer the question, please.
Yeah, Patrick, you are
Hi,
on.
Dave.
So if you could,
Thanks,
yeah.
Dave, for everybody on the call. Thanks, Susie. Hi, everybody. Quick introduction. My name is Patrick Nicholas. I'm a business analyst with Trintech. So I work with Dave quite closely with both our current customers and future prospects as well. I'll try and be quite brief on this question because it is one that does deserve quite a detailed answer. But essentially, there's two ways that we can do intercompany reconciliations. So the first one would be at the general ledger level. So basically checking all the various entries which go direct to the GL and ensuring that the intercompany transactions, the closing balance, can be supported by the debits and credits which are going through that intercompany GL account. More commonly, what we try to do is to actually automate the process at the subledger level. And what I mean by that is that if you take any specific entity where there are intercompany trades, then you should have two entries for every single trade. So one which appears on the payable side and one of which should appear on the receivable side. So what we will do is actually take an extract at the subledger level of both the payables and receivables transactions for each intercompany trade, and then make sure that that individual trade is actually reflected on either side of those ledgers. And we'll automate the loading and the matching of those transactions, and then what we'll find is that we have a series of unmatched or open items which we can then use to actually support our closing balance.
Thank you very much. Very thorough response. Second question I've got, how does the technology work for, i.e. for a bank account? Will it match deposits to bank accounts, to credits, to debtors accounts, and only produce the unmatched items?
Short answer is yes.
Okay,
And I mean, Susie, just really kind of very similar to how it works on the intercompany example. So we have a standard template which we call the dual source matching template within AssureNet, and essentially what that enables you to do is to take any two or more sources and match them together. So as I described with the intercompany, that was the payables and the receivables of any intercompany trade. We can then take that same methodology and actually apply that to any other matching process. So, that this can be most commonly a bank reconciliation that you just described there, so GL or subledger to the bank. You can also take a feed of the subledger, compare that to the bank, or the debtors ledger, compare that to the bank. We can also do very similar things around supplier statement reconciliations. GL to subledger reconciliations are very common matching processes as well. So anything that you could really think of where there's a detailed line level reconciliation happening, that can be accommodated by our solution.
Good, thank you, Patrick. And also, I think you might have already answered this, but I'll ask it anyway. Can this be applied to vendor or customers' accounts beside general ledgers?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, we generally call it supplier statement reconciliation, but yeah, anything where you're doing an account-by-account analysis of either the debt or the credit that's owed on a vendor or a customer, then absolutely we can do that line-level analysis within our tool.
Okay. I think I'm staying with you, Patrick, for the next set of questions. They're getting a little bit more technical. I take it you're agnostic from a ERP or accounting system perspective. Could you confirm this, and also can you talk a little bit about how this complements or works with open items management, for example, in SAP?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's a question we get asked all the time, Susie. So, I mean, on a high level, I'd say probably 60% of our clients use either SAP or Oracle. But in real terms, the majority of our customers actually use multiple ERP systems and general ledger systems. And what we do is that our solution will generally sit on its own hardware and it actually takes feeds from those various systems. So generally what we try and do is avoid direct interfacing into any of those systems. We do have direct interfaces into the likes of SAP and Oracle, but generally we take feeds in the form of flat files. So essentially if you can push that information out into a flat file format, then we can pull that into our system. So I mean, we've got hundreds of clients that use SAP and Oracle, and most of them don't have a single instance and a single implementation globally. And what that means is that we then have to take a series of feeds from all of those different platforms. In terms of open items management for SAP, that gets a little bit more detailed. So open items management, any SAP users out there, I know I think Delhaize actually use this as well. If you have any line level matching which happens in SAP, then absolutely we can take those unmatched items directly from SAP and interface those, again on a flat file basis, directly into a SureNet, so that then you don't have to manually re-enter any of those unmatched items. They will automatically appear directly into our solution.
Okay, good.
And I think, Susie, I mean, just to finish that point off, I think it's probably fair to say that with SAP users specifically, what we often find is that, and I think one of the Delhaize guys mentioned this earlier, that with SAP, one of the biggest problems is that they are actually downloading the transactional detail from open items management into an Excel file, but actually there's no additional capturing of any commentary or any management information. And so what these sites often find is that instead of having a reconciliation, they'll just have a list of transactions coming out of SAP, and these are being attached with part of the spreadsheet, which isn't a reconciliation. So what our engine enables you to do is ensure that not only is that line level detail captured, but actually you can enforce and make it mandatory such that the additional MI is actually captured as part of the rec process.
We hear a lot about shared services organisations, even ones that are highly sophisticated and have been doing a lot of continuous improvement work, still operating off multiple ledgers. So, is it more complicated working in that kind of environment? Is the tool just as straightforward to be working in that kind of environment?
Yeah, it's not more complicated from our point of view, Susie, because as I say, we just take those the flat file feeds. So it could be that it's a few different formats if it's coming from different systems, but it's no more complicated to implement the solution.
And when you talk about taking a flat file, is there actually some kind of software install, or is it more of a kind of an internet-based or even kind of a cloud-based solution?
The Unity suite is web-based, so all you need, for example, for the SureNet module that we've been discussing today is Internet Explorer on your own machine. So the SureNet application will have its own hardware generally. We do offer also an ASP and hosting model as well, so if customers choose not to procure their own hardware, then Trintech do also offer kind of a cloud-based solution where we can actually host or offer a software as a service solution as well.
There was a reference to minimal training required, and because the tool is very friendly, user-friendly and straightforward to navigate your way around, that training really isn't too demanding. Could you just talk through a little bit about that, please?
Yeah, sure. I mean, Trintech, what we aim to do is actually we have a policy of what we call train the trainer. So, I mean, SureNet, you haven't really, the guys on the webinar today haven't really seen a huge number of screenshots, but thanks to the guys from Delhaize for providing those. But it really is a case of, it's a couple of hours max to actually train users on the system. And what we do is the initial phase, we will train trainers within any organization such that as it's rolled out to new business units or new accounts, then actually the customer themselves can actually train new users within the organization. And again, as it's web-based, you don't also have to be based in the same organization. A lot of the training that Trintech actually do is done over the web ourselves. And it's really a matter of a few hours guiding through a few screens. And it really plays back to the kind of key messages that we've seen. The elimination of the Excel spreadsheet means that there's a standardized methodology of how to perform the recs, which means that there's really is a much less of a training burden on new users into the solution.
Okay, we've got time for 3 more questions. So a very straightforward one, does it support Firefox?
It's not an officially supported browser, but it certainly will work.
It will. Okay, thank you for that. And also, how much involvement is actually required by IT to administer the solution? In
terms of once it's actually implemented, the idea is that it's actually maintained by the administrator within the finance function. So you may have heard the guys from Delhaize mentioning the fact that it's very light on IT maintenance, and actually the idea is that the period maintenance is very light, but it is actually handled by a finance user. It's not a technical task to administer the system.
Okay, good. And also, to what extent can you create very kind of bespoke, specific reports?
Sorry, Susie, could you just repeat that question?
Sure. To what extent can you create specific reports from the tool?
Sure. So actually one of the most powerful features of AsureNet specifically is what we call the new ad hoc report wizard, which essentially enables you to either build reports from scratch or actually take one of the 40 or 50 templates which exist within the system, add and remove fields, reorder those fields, sort, group and filter the information by any aspect of the reconciliation process, also create matrices and add graphics on those reports as well, and actually schedule those so they can be proactively delivered to users. So you don't even have to be a user of the system to actually receive a report. So it's a very powerful aspect of the solution.
Good, thank you very much indeed. Very interesting, and lots of technical questions there. I think it's very evident from an ROI perspective that that you get a very swift return. And actually, just on that subject, on the ROI, I'll just put that back to Dave. From your perspective, obviously you're out meeting clients a lot of the time, as is Patrick. What's a typical ROI on this particular tool?
Typical ROI. The typical ROI that we see is obviously a huge reduce of time spent on the reconciliations itself. If you look from a manual perspective, you have a lot of manual tasks that you have to do within a very short time period. With AsureNet, you're able to schedule all your activities in different time zones. So why should you reconcile certain balances within that short time frame at the end of the month, as you have specific balances that you could do after the close or before the close? So what we typically see is a saving in between 10 and 20% in time. Timing is one thing which is very important, but I think which is much more important is the fact that you are helping the organization to perform their reconciliations in a very consistent way, and therefore it helps you also to reduce the errors that you potentially could make by using spreadsheets with all kinds of different macros in the end. And then last but not least, something which is very difficult to measure, but which we know from customers that have been doing this, is by giving their external auditors access to the system, it is reducing the time of the audit itself, and therefore some of our customers renegotiated their audit fees with their auditors.
Thank you very much indeed for that explanation, Dave. That was very interesting. And so thank you to the Delhaize team and to the Trintech team for that. Apologies for the earlier disturbance to the audio. Hope that didn't affect what you're going to be taking away from this webinar too much. Just like to draw your attention to the next webinar that we've got coming up in a couple of weeks' time. It's the HP story, how a global technology giant converted 1.6 million invoices to electronic, and we've got a great calendar of events coming up. Please make sure that you register soon. They will sell out, so I'm very pleased to be saying that. Also, many of you have asked, can you see the tool in action? I'm sure that Trintech would be delighted to come and spend some time with you. However, please do note that sharedserviceslink.com and Trintech are hosting a masterclass together in July, and we'll be notifying you of that in due course. So thank you very much for your time and attention today. Look forward to welcoming you next time, and goodbye.